The late Dorothy Dandridge began her career in Cleveland, Ohio, performing with her sister Vivian as the Dandridge Sisters. As a teenager in Hollywood, she made her mark with small roles in such films as Going Places with Louis Armstrong and A Day at the Races with the Marx Brothers. Her breakthrough role came with the 1954 Otto Preminger film Carmen Jones, in which she was cast opposite Harry Belafonte. Her performance met with a frenzy of rave reviews, and she became the first black actress to be nominated for an Academy Award.
Blow on them, sugar. Make them dry faster. You can turn the heat off now. Oh, man, that tickles. You some harmonica player.
What a mosquito bite. Why the camouflage? You don't need it with me.
Hand me them night on, honey.
You ain't going out.
As far as the grocery store. Gotta feed my man.
Here to remember the life story of this talented and tragic woman, Donald Bogle, author of Dorothy Dandridge, a biography, and two acclaimed actresses whose careers have been deeply influenced by her, Cicely Tyson and Ruby Dee, and I am pleased to have the three of them here. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know what, I just had this thought as I watched this, you know, and you've known this and it's in your bones, thinking of Harry and thinking of Dorothy Dandridge and how many talented black performers, you know, who clearly had everything it ought to be major stars in America.
Doesn't happen.
I mean, that's a story you guys have known.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story that, you know, really, I mean, when we talk about movies, it's a story that goes back to the very early days of movies, when African Americans finally got a chance to work in Hollywood. You know, in the early years, whites in blackface played black roles, but when the real black actor and actress got there, they had all sorts of obstacles in their way, but what always was able to shine through was this extraordinary talent and this energy and a special style. And I think that with Dorothy Dandridge, I think Cicely and Ruby realized this, that in the 50s, shortly after the Second World War had ended, what she did, it looked as if it was really going to open American movies up in a whole new way. I mean, just as Jackie Robinson integrated professional sports, it looked as if Dorothy would fully lead the way to another kind of integration in Hollywood, but it really didn't happen. She opened a door, but they should soon put a brick wall right in front of her.
I want to elaborate on that, but
Sure.
First this question. Why a biography of her? What makes her different than...
Well, I think the fact that she really does in Carmen Jones, she's this transitional figure, her character, that she leads the black female character in Hollywood into the modern age. It's a woman who makes her own choices, a woman who won't be controlled by men. So there's that on screen, and then there's also what happened to her in Hollywood and the system in Hollywood, and how Hollywood valued her as a star. But at the same time, it wasn't going to do anything with her. So her story had to be told so that, one, we would understand something about her and the problems, personal and professional, that she had, that it would also tell us something about movie history itself, Hollywood, popular culture, and it also says something about America and America's attitudes in terms of race and gender.
She died age 42, 1963.
Yes, 65.
65, broke.
Yes, she was broke. She couldn't find work.
Bankrupt.
Yes,
Bankrupt.
and she was alone.
There was a wonderful conversation that took place here before this cameras went on, in which you said to him, "I love this book."
Oh, I was extremely moved by it. I didn't realize that we were going to end up here, but I went and bought it, of course, because you wrote it. And I started reading it, and I could not put it down, except for moments where I was so overwhelmed with the tragedy of her life that I had to walk away from it.
Why?
It was too painful, and obviously touched some chords in my own being with regard to how my career has gone through the years. I've been in this business a very long time, and I'll tell you something. I'm getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame next Thursday, and when I say that to people, I tell you, if I had a penny for everyone who said to me, "It's about time. It's long overdue. What took them so long?"
See, my reaction was, when you said that, was, I thought that would have happened
exactly
20 years ago.
Exactly.
Easy.
Exactly. No.
I thought you already had
See, that's
one.
my point,
I
too.
really
I've
did.
heard that too.
And
I thought you already had
I was
one.
really surprised when you said it today. You certainly did deserve one. I mean, some time ago. But it just reveals, and Ruby as well. Do you have a star on this?
Oh, no.
Well,
no,
you
no.
deserve one.
Yeah.
But,
You
but
deserve
you
one.
know
but-
what? I have a whole different feeling about stars. I don't even think about it. I think it's nice
I
for people
never
to
thought
get
about
them.
it either. I was shocked when they
Yeah.
called me and told me
But
that they were going to
one-
give it to me.
Well, they
One
have-
thing, I just getting back to Dorothy for a second. So much has happened since Dorothy epitomizes a period before the women's movement, before you, how do you live, what do you make of yourself? And so I'm beginning, she epitomizes the end of a kind of an era before before we thought about talking about women's rights and looking
Women's
at
living
career
their life.
opportunities and as kind of sanctioning. Dorothy reminds me when I was coming along and growing up, and I remember if you wanted to get ahead in this, well, it was so common, you know, so it's this beautiful girl, and now she was well fixed because some white man had put her up in an apartment. She was doing very well, and she came from that period, and we were nice. All of us in that time, I think of Dorothy and myself included, we had a nice smile. We behaved a certain way on screen. It was a persona. We were caged.
I think you make reference to that in the book.
I think
Yes,
one
you
thing
do.
about her, though, in terms of what she did within her career, I mean, she had an early marriage, which, I mean, if she had stayed with Harold Nicholas of the Nicholas brothers, if it had worked, it would have been a very comfortable life for her. But she always did have this burning desire to do something else. And once she did begin to really push for her career after her marriage had ended and the tragedy of her daughter who'd been born retarded, there were powerful men who were important to her career. Phil Moore, who many people forget, the black arranger, composer, who was madly in love with her, Otto Preminger. But Dorothy Dandridge really pushed for her career, and the problem with these powerful men was that they wanted something else from her. She was not going to be this kept woman. She was not going to be the little doll on the shelf. Dorothy really fought with Phil Moore, who tried to dominate her, and it really brought about the end.
Most of the men in her life
yes,
did.
She really,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. And it was it was a paradox in that, and again, and perhaps women of that time and maybe women today, where she really wanted strong men in her life.
Because she herself was so strong.
Yes.
I mean,
But she
had
didn't
a
want to be
fervor.
controlled.
No, absolutely not.
I don't know. She didn't
but
impress me that way at all.
I didn't know her.
Go ahead and make this and come right back to you, Sid.
I think she wanted to be an actor, but there was no continuity of roles. And as much as the powerful men did for her, they also undid her in a way.
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, there were those problems.
And
but
I think more than anything, she kept going back to being a singer, and she didn't want to be what she called a saloon singer. I believe after having been on stage all her life, she was one of the people who truly wanted a man to love her, a white man, and have a family and children and that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think that I think that she did want love, and she did want to be married, but I don't think it was just the thing of a white man.
She said so.
Well, she was often
I've read
she was
that.
often misquoted.
She
One of the
complained
things that I discovered with the many people I interviewed who knew her, and this has been very controversial about Dorothy Dandridge, the one man who she seems to have really loved, and I was told she never loved that way again, was the first Harold Nicholas,
yes.
the first husband, an African-American man, immensely talented, very young when they got married, and as he admitted when I interviewed him, insensitive. Harold Nicholas himself said to me, which I thought was really something, because I talked to him about all of these stories about her with white men and so forth, and was she only attracted to white men? And Harold Nicholas said to me, he said, I think that is so unfair and unjust to say that about her, because she found herself in a world that black men couldn't get near. Lena Horne herself said with Lenny Hayden, and I hope I'm not misquoting her, that when she married him, he could take her places a black man couldn't. So these women of that time, many of them, Josephine Baker,
they were looking for the protection and the
power.
Looking,
but they weren't. They may have looked for protection, but in terms of love, I don't think she was looking for love exclusively from some white male.
For career advancement.
She consistently.
She did want to. Yes, she did want to move along.
Now, how long was the relationship with Preminger?
The relationship with Preminger went on for several years. Yes, and it was a very, very bitter breakup. Preminger also really wanted to control her from everything. I was told that he only liked her to wear certain colors. He had small, intimate dinners. He wanted her to be the hostess there. But Otto Preminger, from what I was told, was not going to marry her. He was not going to jeopardize his career. I think with Otto Preminger, the relationship there, I think it was the romance of power for her. I don't think it was like this deep, intense, emotional love that she had for Harold Nicholas. And for her, it became very frustrating, these personal problems coupled with the industry attitudes. And the industry really contributes so much to her decline and her tragic fall.
Let me hear from both of you, because you've been through, you both knew her?
I did not know her. I saw her one time. I went to see her speak at a rally of some kind, and she wore, and when you describe the clothes that Otto Preminger wanted her to wear, she had on a very pale dress, and nothing, I mean, it is as though she's sitting right before me at this moment. I never forgot that. This woman wore agony in her eyes. It was in her voice. And I looked at her and I thought, why is she so sad? And that's the way I remember her.
Because you thought, and the impression was that she had made it more than anyone else, and she was having more opportunities than anybody.
Absolutely. And there she was, in such pain and agony. And I thought, why is she so sad? She's unhappy, this lady.
Well, I never really thought that she had it made. I mean, I've never thought that about any.
In reference to where I was in the business, you know, I was just starting.
You were just starting.
So, you know, you look up to this woman who was this great movie star.
You never thought she had it made? She never thought she had it made.
No, and I haven't seen that yet. It's better today, but I still don't see that for the black actor.
That's exactly where I went. That's exactly where
I never saw it. I didn't see it in her.
No, I mean, today you can...
Well, what happened, excuse me, can I just interject this?
I just want to hear why...
Really, you know what happens, and I know what happened to me, and it happened. You get to a point, when I entered this business, I mean, there was such furor around me, okay, because I was new, I was fresh, I was talented, they said, and so I kept working. I mean, I was going from one place to the other, doing bit parts, doing stand-ins, doing this. I mean, I couldn't get enough. I got so much work, I didn't know how to handle it. And then I got to a level that required billing, more money, a certain kind of recognition, a certain kind of attention, and so on. And then the roles became fewer and far between. And there was really, I mean, such heated discussions about the amount of money that I should be paid. I mean, and still today, listen, when in Santa Monica, I do the steps for exercise. And one morning I was out there. I saw this woman coming up the steps, and she had this baby strapped to her. And I looked at her, and I recognized her as an actress that I knew. And I looked at her, and I said, "What's the matter with you?" She said, "I am so mad. These people don't want to pay me no money. They want me to work for the rest of my life for nothing." I said, "Well, join the club." Because I knew exactly where she was coming from.
But two things I think about Dandridge, because her opportunity was sterling, was far above what so many the way so many of us get started, and she had Preminger behind her too. She really started out as a star that for Carmen in that role, and I'm thinking that. You would think, and she wanted a role after role, but what's common to her, and certainly common to all of us, is not that continuity of the work coming in.
Exactly.
You come to, there's a level of expectation that is not fulfilled.
That's
and it was certainly true with Dorothy, but it wasn't all the fault of, part of it was because I think of Otto Preminger, but I don't know.
I don't think.
But wasn't there a role that she
yes, there was a role.
refused?
One thing I'll say in terms of continuity, yes, that they wanted her to do after the Oscar nomination. They wanted her to do The King and I, to play a slave girl, and it's the role that Rita Moreno eventually played. Otto Preminger felt, and I think he was probably right. He said, "Look, you've been nominated for the Oscar. If Elizabeth Taylor had been nominated, or Marilyn Monroe, your contemporaries, they're not going to offer them a supporting role in the movie."
This is true.
There was the one time when Preminger, who was very perceptive, did not fully understand the racial attitudes in the
totally
industry.
unrealistic.
Because he saw her whole ethnic beat and presence as an asset. This was a great thing. It's a whole new rhythm for the movies. But the industry wasn't going to let her go any further. She turned the role down, and she said that she felt this was the thing that really began her decline. But when she finally worked again, she did Island in the Sun. It was 3 years after Carmen. And in that movie, which introduced the interracial love affair, they cast her opposite a white actor, and they didn't want him to say he loved her, and they didn't want them to kiss. So in the big intimate scene, they're together, and she looks terrific. He goes up to her, and they sort of rub cheeks. It's laughable today. But she couldn't get the work, and then when she did get work, and I'm sure the two of you know this, when you do get work as an Island in the Sun, she had to fight because the script was so compromised and so unfulfilled. I'm sure you've had many things that you said, I can't do this.
I was thinking on another level, wasn't she the only, wasn't she signed by the studio as no other black actress?
Yes, she was. She was signed by 20th Century Fox.
And I often wonder about that. What was the intent there? Why?
Well, they signed her. The interesting thing about her, which where the studio was rather foolish, was that she did have a large following abroad. I mean, she was on the cover of Paris Match, Der Stern. She was in places like Cuba, Brazil. They followed her in the streets. If they had been willing. Look, they made a movie in 1956 called The Ten Commandments, where we have the court of Egypt, all these white actors playing the Egyptians. Dorothy Dandridge could have done a movie like that. It was 2 years after Carmen Jones. There are many things they could have let her do. She signed a contract. She thought it was going to work out. And then they want to put her as the slave girl in The King and I.
If there are a group of young black actresses, among them Angela Bassett and Halle Berry and Vanessa Williams and others, I'm sure that it may be bigger and better that I am not mentioning. Would they have the same conversation we're having today if they were sitting at this table talking about what they're doing?
I think so. I think, look at Angela Bassett. She's in Contact. She's playing a supporting role. She was, she was nominated for the Oscar for What's Love Got to Do With. I think that one of the reasons so many of these younger actresses today, this new generation, wants to play Dorothy Dandridge, is because they realize the situation has not changed that much. They identify with her professionally and in other ways.
Let me just throw out another idea then.
One thing's changed. I think it's hopeful. Please.
What? Say that. One thing. What?
I think one thing that has one thing has changed that is so hopeful.
There is more reason for hope today.
Yes. One thing that changed. One thing that has changed that leaves me more hopeful, and that is that there are black women coming into power positions. There is a realization of a group and collective strength. We can talk about some men, but some of the women, I mean, the potential for Oprah, say, for example, as a filmmaker. Maya is doing, is directing a film. Oprah has a studio. I mean, the possibilities are enormous. So things are.
Well, I think some things have changed, but they haven't changed enough.
Not that I'm saying the potential for change. And also the authors, the writers are. And
but
powerful
when you think
women.
of it-
McMillan
but when
or
you think
Toni
But the
Morrison
thing is,
in
also,
very
when we
different
look at
genres.
these
Very
images,
different
it is
how
genres.
are black
for them
women
to
in a
get
movie
a
like
piece
Booty
of
Call?
work
When you look at
produced.
movies like this, how
Please.
black women are, I mean, what the movies say about black
Yeah.
women, we still don't have movies that really seriously address
That's
the way
true.
much literature has. The tensions, the conflicts, the aspirations of African American women. Once in a while something comes along.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that with that whole sort of boom in the early 90s with Boys in the Hood and Spike Lee's movies, most of them are about the hero
That's
coming
right.
of age.
That's right.
We still haven't seen enough
But,
about African American
just
women.
saying,
Let me
that's
raise
the
my
I agree with you.
potential.
There's some, yes,
think
I
it's
do agree with
Alfred
you.
Woodard. I think some of them.
Denzel Washington and
Denzel.
Samuel Jackson were sitting here. Would they say the same thing?
No, I don't think so.
So men have broken through.
Men have broken through. You will find more men.
Wesley
and I say,
Snipes
I base it on whether you are able to make your livelihood at the profession you have chosen. And there are a whole roster of men who are working consistently, doing 2 and 3 movies a year.
And making millions for
and
each
making
film.
millions of dollars. And I don't know one actress, except Whoopi Goldberg maybe, that's doing it.
On that note, thank you very much. Donald Bogle, Dorothy Dandridge, a biography. Ruby Dee, thank you, my dear. Great to see you.
Nice to be here.
Thank you, Cicely.
Always.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Mary has become one of Hollywood's most successful actresses. Her resume includes diverse roles such as a drug-addicted prostitute in Spike Lee's Jungle Fever and the Stone Age secretary in the live-action film The Flintstones. She is both the star and executive producer of the upcoming HBO film Introducing Dorothy Dandridge. In 1954, Dorothy Dandridge became the first black woman to be nominated for an Oscar as Best Actress for the film Carmen Jones. Here is a look at that performance as well as a clip of Halle Berry's portrayal of Dandridge.
Hi, Carmen.
Hi.
Well, get a load of this hip-swinging floozy rolling around to work in time for lunch.
Prune puss, you make sounds I don't like.
I'm telling the foreman union is late again.
You do that, and I'll scratch out the one good eye you got left.
Hi, Carmen.
Hi.
Well, get a load of this hip-swinging floozy rolling around to work in time for lunch.
Prune puss, you make sounds I don't like.
I'm gonna tell the foreman you was late again.
You do that, and I'll scratch out the one good eye you got left.
Hey, Carmen. Why don't you come to pastors with me tonight? I can dance those other boys off the floor.
T-Bone, you too little and too late.
I don't waste no time. Dig me, baby?
Wasting your time right now, Sergeant. The wind's blowing me in another direction, and ain't no use arguing with the wind.
Hey, how about going out with me tonight instead of playing the field?
Yeah, come and pick out one. That'll release the rest of them.
I won't pick out a man, and he won't pick out me. It don't go that way. You can't ever know where your crazy heart wants to go.
Introducing Dorothy Dandridge premieres on HBO on August 21st. I am pleased to have Halle Berry here to talk about this role and this film and what it means to her. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about your introduction to Dorothy Dandridge and why this was so important for you to beat out some other people who really wanted to make this film as well.
Well, I was 18 years old, growing up in Cleveland, with a white mother, an absent black father, in an all-white environment. And one Saturday afternoon, on the UHF station, Carmen Jones came on. And I was just in awe and just totally captivated, not only by Dorothy Dandridge, but by the entire film. I'd never seen an all-black movie, and an all-black musical, and a movie where all of the black people looked good. The place that they were looked so happy and so much like the life that I was living, but yet they were all black people, and that really stayed with me. And I thought, there is a place somewhere, it's not my neighborhood, but there's a place somewhere where this does exist. And I didn't know a thing about Dorothy Dandridge, and I became inspired to find out more about her. And I remember going to my high school library and looking up the name Dorothy Dandridge, and there was one line. First black woman nominated for an Academy Award, Carmen Jones, which she'd done 22 films. Her life was long and ups and downs, and none of that was listed. So for a long time, that's all I ever knew about her.
What do you think now when you look back at that career she had and what she represented at the time and what many people thought might be a real breakthrough in terms of roles and opportunities for black actresses. She died tragically, drug overdose, they say.
It's a mystery, her death.
It's a mystery. That's the conventional wisdom is a drug overdose,
Yes.
is it?
Yeah.
She was 42 years old.
Yes.
What does she represent?
Well, for me, she represents inspiration. She was hope. I remember when I saw her, I felt, wow, there's someone that I can relate to, who's like me, that I can aspire to be like. She must be successful. Here she is, starring in this wonderful movie. And the fact that she died so soon was a great loss. But what the greatest loss is that her legacy has been lost. And that was the reason for making this movie, so that we won't forget who she was. We won't forget her contribution, not only to the black community, but to the film industry as a whole. She was the one there, along with Eartha Kitt and Lena Horne, Diane Carroll, paving the way for actresses like me, Angela Bassett, Whitney Houston, Janet Jackson, the other women that wanted to make her story. She was there paving the way, and that's why it's so important that we don't forget. And her struggle was very unique, and that was only 40 years ago, you know, when she couldn't even use the public restroom. She couldn't walk in the front doors of the clubs that she would be performing in. She couldn't talk to the white patrons, but yet she still was the cream that rose, you know,
If
to the
anybody
top.
had a chance to break through, she was the one.
Yes. But her problem was, after her breakthrough role as Carmen Jones, it got her an Academy Award nomination, what she quickly found out, which is what I face today, there were no other roles to support a black woman of her stature and of her talent. So what happened was she became very bitter, very frustrated, very confused about what to do, how to crack this nut that was before her. She didn't know how to find her place within an industry that relatively had no place for her. And 40 years later, that's still what black leading ladies face today.
So I look at you. You were in Bulworth with Warren Beatty.
Yes.
And you say, today, for me, with whatever film accomplishments I have, with whatever talent that I have, they're not the kinds of opportunities for a black actress.
Not there right
What's
now.
the barrier? Because Denzel Washington, as a male black actor, Samuel L. Jackson, as a male black actor, are breaking through. They're being offered roles. Denzel's latest role could have been white or black.
Right,
You know, he's now playing Hurricane Jackson.
Usually men are
Carter.
better able to break down those barriers, just because, you know, the sexism that we also deal with in our industry, not just racism, but sexism. Most of the roles today, at least that I read, are very male-driven. And for women, be you black or white, we have to get in there and fight.
Whether you're Haley Berry or
Julia Roberts, for all that
Julia
matter.
Roberts,
Julia
right.
still, as famous as Julia is, she's still fighting to get good roles where she can, you know, do what she wants to do.
But you got this made, which says something. Doesn't it?
It said something. Dorothy Dandridge could have never produced a movie about anybody's life
Right.
back in 1953. So that's a sign that evolution, you know, that we are evolving, but true evolution is very slow. So I'm hopeful, because playing Dorothy Dandridge, I realized how far we've come. Sure, there's a long road ahead of me, but we've come a long way. The fact that I, a black woman, 32 years old, could produce a movie about a woman that I adore is saying things are changing.
How did you beat out Whitney Houston and Janet Jackson to do this?
I don't know.
Well, you own the right to the book. That's one thing. You early on had the smarts to buy to option the book.
Janet has the rights to her autobiography. Whitney, I believe, has the rights to Donald Bogle's book, who you said you had on your show. And I think, honestly, it is because I am an actress, and that is all I do. That's my day job. They're singing superstars. They have other things that pulled their attention, that diverted their attention away from this story, where I live this day in, day out. This is what I do. And I think that's the only reason.
The answer is you wanted it more.
I don't know if I think I have more time to focus on this. I'm not a singing superstar traveling around the world doing tours and concerts. I'm an actor.
Just to make the case, you went out and did this for HBO. After Bulworth, how many options, how many opportunities did you have? Here's a film produced by one of the big stars in Hollywood. Did not do as well as he had hoped, and others might have hoped. But you were central to that movie. What happened after that? Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing. I think I gained a certain amount of respect from my peers in the industry and from the most important decision makers in the industry, sure. You know, being with Warren, I got exposed to a bevy of people that I never would have been able to be exposed to. But the greatest thing I got out of working on board with Warren Beatty was I got so much confidence in myself as not only an actress, but as a businesswoman. He was the one that really encouraged me and said, you can do this, and I'm going to help you. Now, you've got a partner here that you've got a secret weapon. Call me, ask me, use me.
Have you called him? Have you asked him? Have you used him?
Yes, I have.
To help you.
Yeah, he's been sort of, you know, a great source of, you know, information. He knows everything. He knows everybody. He's very smart.
There is this also. The NAACP has criticized primetime television about the fact that we don't see more situation comedies and, I mean, and more dramas involving Black Americans, right?
Yes. And I support them. I agree. There should be more.
But haven't you turned down 3 or 4 opportunities to have television series in primetime? Because?
I wanted to do film. And it wasn't a color issue. It was just that I have so enjoyed the flexibility and the freedom of making movies. And sometimes with television, there's so much censorship today that I find I'm happier in a medium where I can bring more truth to the roles that I'm trying to play and not have to deal with what the network television says we can and cannot say and what images we can and cannot project. And as an artist, I think that can sometimes be stifling. For me.
For you.
Yeah.
Let me take a look at this. Is another clip of you. Here it is.
We're going to be staying at a hotel. It's just outside the city limits. And I think we should probably use the service entrance when we come in here, don't you think? Oh, don't talk to any of the patrons.
Just say it.
What?
You think I've never been to the South? I can't stay in Miami Beach. I can't use the front entrance, and I can't speak to the patrons, right? This isn't a tan, Earl. I'm a Negro, a colored girl. You did happen to notice that, didn't you?
I noticed.
Now listen, if we're going to work together, you can't tiptoe around me. You have to say it straight out.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Come on, honey. Zip me up so I can run to the bathroom. Come on.
This is your bathroom. You told me to say it straight out. Angel Face.
This introducing Dorothy Dandridge on HBO Saturday, August 21st at 9 p.m. A couple of things. We look at you and it's beautiful, and you live in New York, you live in Los Angeles, you have this career that you have made for yourself, and yet at the same time, to know about you is to know that it's not always easy. You went through a traumatic divorce from David Justice, the baseball player. I mean, it hit you really hard.
Up until that point, I had had somewhat of a charmed life. You know, I sort of was very successful in high school. I was the head cheerleader, president of my class, honor society, beauty pageants, modeling. I had somewhat of a very charmed life. And that sort of hit me, you know, blindsided me, actually. I never saw that
He walked in
coming.
and said, I want a divorce, and you had never had that kind of disappointment.
No, it wasn't like that. The disappointment is that I thought I could make it work. I thought, you know, I could fix it. I've always been able to fix everything else in my life. And I couldn't fix this one. And that was the disappointment. I felt the failure of that. And for the first time, I failed at something. I'd won at everything up until that point, and it was very difficult.
Here's what's stunning about this. Would someone to look at you and with, as I say, all the benefits, all the things that you have carved out for you in life, you even thought about suicide. Thought about it. And the story, which is the happy ending, is that all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, which ought to be the story for everybody. I got a lot to live for here. What am I thinking about? Right?
And it's about learning
and it's
to
about
love
faith
yourself.
and
Faith and a God, a higher power, and loving yourself enough and never allowing another person to dictate if you're happy or if you're not, or if you feel good about yourself, but having it all inside. And when you have it all inside, and only then, are you then able to give it away and accept it the way it should be accepted, when you possess it first. And I, through all my winnings and all of my blessed life, I never loved myself the way that I do now. And I think that's what's making a difference in my life today.
Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
It's great to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.